Hello and welcome back. I just finished reading Captain Atom issue 5 from 1987. This is, of course, volume 1, published by DC Comics. We start out with a story of Captain Atom fighting Dr. Spectro, and it's part of the book that was put out as part of the disinformation campaign called Captain Atom Tells His Story. It's being read by someone named Mabel Ryan. She's a reporter, and she wants to track down Dr. Spectro and get his side of this story. Meanwhile, Captain Atom is talking to Dr. Magala when he's told that there's some instructions for him to go back to base and do some stuff. He manages to dodge that thanks to Babylon, Dr. Magala's assistant. The captain has to go and hang out with his daughter and try and get reacquainted, but he's having some adjustment issues. Meanwhile, his friend Gaz manages to intercept another notice, takes a photo of it, which looks really shady, and before handing the information over to the captain. Then we go back to Mabel, who is tracked down the assistant of a former supervillain named Roy G. Bivolo, alias the infamous Rainbow Raider. Now this is some obscure Silver or Golden Age villain from Captain Atom's past or DC. I'm not real clear on that. It's not a character I'm familiar with at all. Like, they had to dust somebody off for that. But she finds the assistant who had access to all of his equipment, and she thinks he's Dr. Spectro. Well, Dr. Spectro was actually an invention specifically for the disinformation campaign. But once this guy gets word of an advance, he is all in. And he shows off a bunch of the old technology that was still kicking around in storage that he's got access to, and he's familiar with some of it and how it works because he was a lab assistant. And the Rainbow Raider had developed this technology to help his colorblind son, but it actually creates like light and mirage and hallucinations and hard light constructs. It's sort of, well, it's kind of silly. But anyway, we cut back over to Captain Atom, who is at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, showing off a new declassified jet that he's already been familiar with. It's outdated by his standards, but the public doesn't know about it. Well, during the demonstration of this jet, a missile is launched from somewhere, and who's in the audience but Ronnie Raymond, Firestorm, the original Firestorm. So thinking that they're not doing anything about this missile, Captain Atom is just standing there, so Ronnie takes off to intercept the missile, not realizing what's going on. So Captain Atom has to try and stop him, and of course they get in a little bit of a conflict because Ronnie's a little bit of a hothead, pun intended, and Captain Atom uses his quantum boom to take him down and absorb a bunch of his energy, and of course explain to the kid that in fact it was part of the demonstration. And that's when we cut over to see Gaz, and he is of course figured out that Captain Atom and Nathaniel Atom are the same guy. And then we learn that this lady, Mabel, the reporter, is on the phone with someone, and she finds out that the whole background of Captain Atom is a lie. She's about to cancel the money that the transfer money that she gave to this guy, Tom, for his involvement in his lies. Then he kills her to keep the money, and it ends with Tom Emery just became Dr. Spectro, he says. And that's when he's leads into next issue. Now, overall, this is a great issue. It's a lot of story building. There's not a whole lot of actual action, but this is really written in a serialized format that really doesn't distract from the fact that it's a comic book. It feels like you're watching a TV show, and they really go into a lot of details. You know, there's a lot of build-up, a lot of good character development. The whole thing with Gaz trying to figure out what's going on with his friend, and the whole dynamic between Adam and his daughter, and the changing there. It's pretty interesting, and we learn more about Captain Atom's bump into the future, and his ability to absorb radiation, like with the submarine in the previous story. He took what they're calling a quantum step, where whenever he exceeds how much he can actually absorb, if he's absorbing radiation too quickly, it kicks him into the future as like a self-preservation mechanism. And because he absorbed a 50 megaton blast, it kicked him 18 years into the future. Well, this time when he was absorbing the radiation from that sub, it only kicked him 10 days into the future, or 6 days, whatever it was. So yeah, it was a good story. The fight with Firestorm was fairly short, actually, which is good. They're heroes. They should they have to have that little skirmish before they become friends. But I really like the cover picture. It's very dynamic. I would have liked to have seen more of the interaction between the two heroes. Maybe have Ronnie in there a little more, but it's Captain Atom's book, and we really got a lot of character development out of this one. So yeah, overall, another good read. It's not really a title you can just jump right into. I think if you're going to read this, I really recommend starting at the beginning, because this story arc by Carrie Bates is really building on itself, and it's very difficult to jump right in. But it looks like it's the same team from last issue, and it was edited by Denny O'Neil, who's one of the great editors from DC. So yeah, all around a great book. Definitely recommend the series so far, all 5 issues. I don't think you'd have a lot of difficulty jumping in with issue 1, but I think you would have a lot more jumping in at issue 5. For this one, I would definitely say start at the beginning. I'm sure they'll recap later a little bit better than they are now, but as it is now, they're definitely building on what happened previously. So that'll do it for this one. As always, thanks for listening, and we hope to have you on the next episode.